dramas, and there was this leak where Squid Game season 2 might finally be happening after 3 years. Now, what am I talking about? So, what I seen was like this article where it was showing this clip or something of Squid Game season 2, and it's like the main character, he has red hair, and I have this article that came from a couple of days ago from Digital Spy where they were dabbling into it. So, it says, right, Squid Game Season 2 shares first look trailer, and the guy, the actual guy, the main character, Squid Game says in the trailer, right, this quote says, I will find you no matter what it takes. So it's kind of like building off of the first season, and I definitely am going to have to rewatch the first season to kind of refresh my memory on the season as a whole. Also, the guy who plays the main guy in Squid Game actually put this picture on his Instagram where he was showing himself in the actual Squid Game, but he didn't actually have had red hair like in this image in this clip or whatever. So that was definitely interesting for me. So it doesn't tell you, it just says it's coming in 2024. It doesn't say when exactly it's coming, but I will double check that just in case, right? So we can see that, okay, so right, just give me a second here. Squid Game season 2, season 2 release date, right? So it says that Netflix hasn't shared much by way of release date, but it confirmed and it's new next on Netflix Real that Squid Game season 2 will be coming in 2024. So it's saying that, and then there was this image of the character from Squid Game showing off on Instagram how he was in the game again. For me personally, I've been super duper excited for this next season. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out upon a rewatch because I did watch it twice. I watched it in like October or September when it came out originally, binged it in like a few days or something like that, and then I rewatched it for like Halloween or something. So I did actually rewatch this show like a couple of times. And the second time, what I do remember was the fact that, right, there was these videos getting super obsessed and all these little details you notice when you rewatch it versus when you first watch it. So what I was doing is I was like picking out the things that I was noticing about the series and things. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes down because the first season, right, it was super duper popular. Mr. Beast made a whole video like doing his own parody of Squid Game. There's even this American version of Squid Game, but I don't know if I want to watch that, right? I don't know if it would hit the same as that emotional impact as that first season. So there's definitely that, right, where I almost thought I had nothing to talk about this week. Like I was kind of dry for topics, but there you go. Right, we managed to find this idea that Squid Game season 2 actually got leaked online, like a little clip or something. So I'm interested to see where that goes. But I kind of want to talk about how
You are about to experience the James Rambling Show, hosted by James Patton.
hello, welcome back to the James Rambling Show for yet another episode. And in today's episode, I'm not going to be talking about Yakuza as much as compared to last week and the past few weeks where I was talking about like finally finishing Ishin, testing out the dubs of Lost Judgment, because in this episode I'm actually going to be kicking things off with a pretty interesting leak that happened recently. Now, if you've been following the James Allen Show, maybe you haven't, right? There's this thing that I like to enjoy, and it's called K dramas, and there was this leak where Squid Game season 2 might finally be happening after 3 years. Now, what am I talking about? So, what I seen was like this article where it was showing this clip or something of Squid Game season 2, and it's like the main character, he has red hair, and I have this article that came from a couple of days ago from Digital Spy where they were dabbling into it. So, it says, right, Squid Game season 2 shares first look trailer, and the actual guy, the main character, Squid Game says in the trailer, right, this quote says, I will find you no matter what it takes. So it's kind of like building off of the first season, and I definitely am going to have to rewatch the first season to kind of refresh my memory on the season as a whole. Also, the guy who plays the main guy in Squid Game actually put this picture on his Instagram where he was showing himself in the actual Squid Game, but he didn't actually have had red hair like in this image in this clip or whatever. So that was definitely interesting for me. So it doesn't tell you, it just says it's coming in 2024. It doesn't say when exactly it's coming, but I'll double check that just in case, right? So we can see that, okay, so right, just give me a second here. Squid Game Season 2, Season 2 release date, right? So it says that Netflix hasn't shared much by way of release date, but it confirmed in its new next on Netflix reel that Squid Game Season 2 will be coming in 2024. So it's saying that, and then there was this image of the character from Squid Game showing off on Instagram how he was in the game again. For me personally, I've been super duper excited for this next season. It'll be interesting to see how it turns out upon a rewatch because I did watch it twice. I watched it in like October or September when it came out originally, binged it in like a few days or something like that, and then I rewatched it for like Halloween or something. So I did actually rewatch this show like a couple of times. And the second time, what I do remember was the fact that, right, there was these videos getting super obsessed and all these little details you notice when you rewatch it versus when you first watch it. So what I was doing is I was like picking out the things that I was noticing about the series and things. So it'll be interesting to see how it goes down because the first season, right, it was super duper popular. Mr. Beast made a whole video like doing his own parody of Squid Game. There's even this American version of Squid Game, but I don't know if I want to watch that, right? I don't know if it would hit the same as that emotional impact as that first season. So there's definitely that, right, where I almost thought I had nothing to talk about this week. Like I was kind of dry for topics, but there you go. Right, we managed to find this idea that Squid Game season 2 actually got leaked online, like a little clip or something. So I'm interested to see where that goes. But I kind of want to talk about how there's these two like games that I never got the chance to talk about yet. So one of them, right, it's not Yakuza, this is completely different, but there's this game that came out like a couple of weeks ago called Pal World, and the whole world is going crazy over it. They're like, oh my goodness, this Pal World Pokemon with guns is so amazing, and I never got to actually state my personal stance and opinion on this. So what I did was a couple of weeks ago, right, there was this game preview of this game called Power World. I tried it out for about 10 minutes, and unlike the internet, I'm not understanding the hype here. Now, I know what you'd be thinking, oh, you're sounding a bit pretentious, you're trying to have a unique take on it or whatever, but in my humble opinion, right, it's literally like the most cookie cutter survival game ever. Like, I have seen 100 games where you build something and you have to survive the night and all of that. I mean, this is literally the Fortnite formula we're talking about here. There's also like these like pals and all of that, and you throw like you have to make this whole thing, and yeah, it's not for me. I played about 10 minutes, and so it wasn't my type of thing. I just wanted to try it out because when it comes to these things, people just hype things up, and you're like, oh, you can't be serious. You're over exaggerating yourself here. But they definitely were over exaggerating themselves. Like the Pal World to me wasn't my favorite. It was okay. It was okay. I played like 10 minutes, as I said, and there was like 10 achievements that were like 100 gamer score. And there's like the game preview, and then there was also like this whole game where it was like £30. And for me personally, I don't want to spend £30 on something that I played 10 minutes of. Like I just wanted to see what it was like and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my take on Power World. So there was this other game that came out as of late, which is called the Suicide. I think it's called Justice League Kill the Suicide Squad or something. Suicide Squad killed the Justice League, and there's this whole controversy around it because it's this online only game. It had really bad performance issues. Like there'd be like these. I saw in this one video where this guy plays it, and there's like errors when he's playing the game. Like he's in the online match or whatever, and it says error has occurred. And this is for a game that's came out day one or whatever, and that is quite embarrassing. You'd think they would find a way to get around that and sort of fix those issues, but they might fix it later on. And I did hear that like there was something where they were going to update it in the future or later this year, but there was this thing where this thing leaked online before the game came out where there's this whole scene where Batman gets killed, and it is insane fat. It is insane to say the least, because especially with Yakuza 8 coming out, we're bringing back Kazuma Kiryu, and then you've got this guy, you've got like Batman dying, and it's not giving the fans what they want, sort of thing. So I think, yeah, that's an interesting contrast we have on our hands. And I know that we're talking about Squid Game Season 2 leaking, and we're talking about Power World, and we're talking about this new Suicide Squad controversy game, whatnot, but I have to bring it back to Yakuza again, because man, this is absolutely interesting to me that Yakuza Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Yakuza 8 Like a Dragon 8, whatever you want to call it, right? This game has gotten 1 million units sold in 1 week it's been out, but by the time we're recording this game's been out for about 8 or 9 days now. But last night or the night before that, just recently, it came out that there was a million units sold. So a million people bought this and it got shipped out to them in their country. So it's an interesting one due to the fact that, like, okay, there is this whole new game plus DLC controversy thing, and maybe it's like loads of people just bought the most expensive version and became gullible and stuff like that. But there's also this factor that Yakuza is becoming a very popular franchise now. So the popularity doesn't always matter, it's just because the good word of mouth from IGN and Metacritic, and also the whole hype surrounding Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, or Yakuza, or whatever you want to call it, has been very, very big. So this idea that we're gonna get those 1 million units sold actually makes so much sense, and I'm really glad to see this, because this is a world record for the franchise. Like, I'm pretty sure it took a few years before Yakuza 7 got like a million units sold and tons of units sold around the world and stuff like that. So once you get outside of that kind of stuff, where we do talk about like Squid Game Season 2 getting leaked online, we talk about Power World, we're talking about Suicide Squad, and we're talking about Yakuza 8 actually getting those 1 million units sold. I do also want to talk about how I actually had this like kind of like this experience with KFC. Now, when it comes to KFC itself, I'm somebody that has a bit of a history with this one, because, right, I know I have established like 1,000 times on this podcast, right, I have a bit of an interesting history with McDonald's and fast food and things, because they're not usually the best, like, especially Burger King as well. I don't usually always have the best experiences with this, but KFC, right, I had this thing where you get like this popcorn chicken, this potato mash, and this gravy, and you mix it around, and it's very, very good. Like, I don't know what I was gonna get myself into, because KFC is, it's just sometimes I'm in this phase where I want to have it so much, and then there's phases where I'm just like, oh, I don't want to have this anymore. And yeah, definitely that's the case here. Right, I actually enjoyed it, and it was a recommendation from one of my sisters, Jodie. But the interesting detail about this whole thing was how, like, there was only one like pot where you get this mashed potato. They didn't give us the two that we needed, and it was a bit of a mess there. That was a bit of a silly skill issue from those employees at KFC. Like, they were just too fast, and I did actually have this delivery. I don't know if I mentioned this last week, but I had this delivery experience again with like KFC or McDonald's, whatever. Right, so they delivered my food really fast, and I enjoyed that, and it was really nice. I actually enjoy the gravy at KFC as well. Like, I actually drink the KFC like little pot of gravy, because it's actually very, very warm in my throat, and I just enjoy that. So that sounds a bit weird, but that is the kind of, I don't know if I've ever mentioned this kind of take that I have, but I definitely enjoy that kind of stuff going around, and there's certainly all of that kind of stuff. So once you get outside of that stuff, right, what else can we even say at this point? Well, that is an interesting one, because there is now there's actually there's the rugby league happening now, like the Six Nations is finally happening. So I never got to watch this because I was busy playing Like a Dragon Infinite Well for like a few hours and stuff like that. Actually been playing it for about 8 hours today or something, but there's like Scotland and Wales or whatever actually came toe to toe, and the score was like, I think it was like 27-28 or something like that, right? Let me just double check. So Scotland versus Wales, um, Six Nations 2024, right? Yeah, 26, 27. Now, I never got to watch that entire match, but based on the whole thing with how, the Rugby World Cup had those interesting things where you had that match where it'd be 20 and then 27 or whatever. And so seeing that kind of happen, it's kind of a repetitive thing with rugby in general. And so there's that as well. I'm not exactly sure what else to talk about as well, but Hmm. I'm trying to think if there was anything else we could actually say. Um. Hmm. Right. Let me just pause this real quick. Right. Hold on. All right. We're back. Right. I just thought like I had this moment where I thought that I didn't know what else I was gonna talk about because I pretty much covered a lot of bases of what I wanted to say, but there was this one thing that I never got a chance to even talk about and a chance to give my thoughts on. And this was like back in like January, and we're in February, and there's a couple of weeks ago, I think, on January 18th or something like that, where there's now going to be like there's this whole live actions movie that's getting announced about Minecraft. And you know me, right, the James Allen show, right, we've kind of said this thing that live action remakes are kind of silly and overdone, and it just feels repetitive. And yeah, I definitely think this, right. As somebody, I grew up, right, I was very, very into Minecraft, and you could say, yeah, okay, of course they're trying to make money off this and get bank and make money and do that and get a good, like, bank off of that, you know what I mean? Like, make tons of money, milk the crap out of it. But in my opinion, as somebody that doesn't really care about Minecraft and this idea that Jack Black is going to be playing Steve, it all just sounds weird to me, and there's a lot of weird stuff happening with this kind of stuff, right? I know I actually enjoy these video game adaptations, but just something about this one in particular doesn't interest me as much because it's like, yeah, how is like, for example, right? Just let me just like speak better and talk a bit more elaborate here because Minecraft is this game where, right, I'm pretty sure you know this, but just in case you don't, you kind of like punch trees and it's like animated and there's like these explosions. And so, how are they gonna make this to this point where, right, you're gonna have this person punching the tree and doing this thing and not make it look weird and stuff? Because Minecraft is animated, and usually animated things feel weird in live action, and that's usually how it goes. But there was that One Piece live action. I just can't think of any other live actions that did something that was kind of interesting to where it wasn't actually as bad. So that's coming out, and apparently that said like 2024, April 2024 or something. So there's that thing. But then there's also this idea that there's gonna be a Despicable Me 4 movie coming out. Now, if you know about, was it July last year when I watched the Rise of Gru film on the plane on the way to Scotland? So I did enjoy that film, and I did actually watch the trailer to the Despicable Me 4 movie, and I have to say that when it comes to that, right, I actually enjoyed the trailer, but it did kind of have the similar formula that you're used to with Despicable Me, so the magic might not be there where, right, you're going to be super excited for this, okay? A lot of kids might eat this up and stuff, but if you've already seen the jokes from Gru and the kids and the minions and all of that, you kind of know what you're in for, and so you don't have to watch this. So I would, if I had to, maybe I could watch it on an airplane or pirate it when I'm bored. It's not one of those movies I'm going to be like, yeah, I'm rushing out to see this and stuff like that. So, right, I don't think there's much else to say here. Right, this might be a bit of a shorter episode this time around. I might actually do this thing where I'm gonna do a clip that's maybe a few minutes long so that we can stretch it out to like a 20-minute episode because there's times in this podcast where I think I've talked about this before, but there's times where I don't have as much to talk about because some weeks are different to others to where you've got stuff that's got so much to say, and then other weeks it's like, yeah, there's only about two or three or four things I need to talk about, and then okay, let's finish recording. So there's that. There's definitely that, but just make sure, right, that you tune into that Tekken 8 review because yeah, I jumped straight into this episode and forgot to mention this, that okay, there is a Tekken 8 review I put out where it's a general perspective, perspective on how I'm a beginner at Tekken, and so check that out. So yeah, see you next week for the another episode of the James Ramblin' Show, right? Like, we're still continuing this podcast, whether it's going to be me with scruffy hair, just walking out of bed hair, like lazy looking hermit hair, or it's going to be me rambling about 10 things and making it 35 minutes long. Who knows, right? So, yeah, bye. We'll just continue this, right? Bye.